Data protection and privacy teams are under more pressure than ever with new laws, AI oversight, data breaches, and the constant expectation to do more with fewer resources.
That's why TrustArc built a modern privacy and data protection management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. It unifies your tools, automates the work that slows you down, and surfaces what matters most right when you need it.
From guided quick actions to our intelligent assistant, Ask Arc, you get credible, contextual answers backed by expert research, not generic AI guesses.
Finally, privacy that works the way privacy pros work.
Learn how TrustArc helps teams move faster with confidence at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.
This is Serious Privacy. Here are your hosts, Paul Breitbart and Kay Royal.
Hi everyone. No guest this week, but still a lot to discuss between Kay and myself. In another Week in Privacy episode, we'll talk about TikTok, the Federal Trade Commission and bipartisanship, ethics. There is, of course, some update about Meta, and we have a lengthy discussion about the power of local government in the online context, especially while maintaining public order. And it's a bit chaotic, for which we apologize. But without further ado, my name is Paul Breitbart.
And I'm Kay Royal, and welcome to Serious Privacy. Kind of excited about this week, Paul. I feel like we've got a lot of wheels in motion and exciting things coming. But let's go back and start with our question. What is your favorite thing to do on a Friday night?
Sleep? Was that too quick?
I was going to say, wow, there was no hesitation on that one, was there?
No, actually, that's not true. Ideally, having dinner and drinks with friends.
I was going to say, that's what I would have guessed with you.
Yeah, that's always a good way to wrap up the week and have a nice dinner, catch up, and a few drinks. That's probably the best way to start the weekend.
Do you have somewhere that you go, like every Friday I'm going to this bar that knows my name? And No,
I'm not the Cheers kind of person. I'm in like privacy. I don't like everybody to know my name. Sorry.
Oh, I love it.
Very cheesy. Very cheesy.
Very cheesy. But hey, we're known to be worse than cheesy, so we're good there. I just like to chill at home and watch a movie or so. I've never been much of a person to go out and do things on Friday nights. I even don't like to go to movies at night. I like to go during the day because they're cheaper. I'm a cheapskate, so I just like to chill. I love it, but I do like when it's Friday, though. I mean, Thursday's my favorite day of the week because Friday is already the weekend. Yeah, I just like to relax. I love that I have nothing coming for the next 2 days. I always try to do a day of rest over the weekend, so I may do something one day, but not the other. So last weekend, I went to the Ren Fair, the Arizona Renaissance Festival, and absolutely loved it. It was freezing cold. Literally, the wind was gusting and it was freezing and freeze warnings all over the place. And we went that weekend because the Super Bowl and the Waste Management Open, which is a golf thing, were both here in the Phoenix area this past weekend.
Nice and quiet, eh?
Right.
So you had a good weekend.
Had a good weekend. I believe in the transparency part of privacy. Let's just be honest there. But when Paul and I started today's meeting, I told him that I had a favor to ask of him. And that is, since I'm essentially finished with my handbook on what is GDPR in the U.S., talking about how companies who comply with the GDPR also, depending on what they're doing in the U.S., need to comply with COPPA or HIPAA or FERPA or GLBA, different things like that. So I'm writing a short handbook. I mean, literally, people, it's like less than 15,000 words, maybe right at 15,000. I would like to ask, and it's going to be bad if Paul tells me no, if Paul would be willing to review it from the GDPR perspective, is this something that would be helpful for privacy professionals in Europe to understand the differences, not the nitty gritty details, because the nuances have to come in a bigger book, but just the fundamental differences in some of the U.S. laws that they might have to comply with. And
I think it's a very interesting initiative. I think it could be helpful for a lot of companies this side of the Atlantic. And I think it's always better for the locals to teach their legislation to the foreigners instead of the other way around.
True.
So I'd be happy to help out as long as it is not in March.
It is not in March. We can finish it before March gets here. Because I'm probably self-publishing on the Kindle Direct thing. I'm also planning on it as kind of a series. So everyone knows that I go by the heart of privacy. And so I'm labeling my books as at the heart of blank. And I'm intending for it to be privacy topics mostly. But think about, books for dummies. This could be at the heart of women leadership, at the heart of electronics. I don't know. It could just be at the heart of whatever. But of course, I'll start my series with privacy things, but intending for them just to be quick little handbook guides that should help people be able to just, get a quick and dirty little insight into whatever it is they're looking at. And then the other thing I'll say is I hate that companies don't provide privacy training, mainly because it's expensive. And they don't see the sense in paying money to get training on things that the law says they have to have, but they really don't think they need. And they sure as heck don't want to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas most privacy people are quite knowledgeable about their topic, it doesn't necessarily mean that they provide training in an engaging, memorable fashion. So one of the other things I'd like to do is develop series of small, free privacy trainings for people.
Hey, you're not going to compete, right?
Compete with what?
With my university courses.
Of course not. These would be small little nuggets, like 3-minute things. It's not something that's unique to privacy people to want to shove their knowledge down other people's throats in a manner that the other people are like, oh, yes, I'm hungry. Feed me more. So anyway.
It's basically what we do.
It is basically what we do. So it's fun. There was another thing I was going to tell you about. Oh, I guess it was just most of the Super Bowl. Oh, the noises. Yes. So we were put on warning last week here in Arizona, here in the Phoenix area, that we would be seeing a lot of private jets coming in, something like 1,100, 1,400 jets coming in. So at the free air show. There were a ton of jets coming in, but when the Super Bowl was over, I would say within about 2 hours, there was this horrible, loud, roaring noise that came over our house. Now we're in Tempe, which is the south, just south of Phoenix. And it was really, really, we're talking, it was shaking the house. And so we went outside to look and there was a lot of cloud cover, nothing. There was nothing to see. And yet, a little further off in the distance, you could see these lights appearing every now and then. Now, Phoenix is known for their weird little lights that appear and disappear. But there was like one steady light that you could see every now and then that you could clearly tell was something flying. But then there were other lights that were around it. Every now and then you would see one over here and one over there, and then there'd be one over here and one over there. And we're like, I wonder if that loud noise is linked to those lights. If so, it was much further away than you would think the noise would be, but maybe, physics or sound or whatever did something weird. But the weird thing is there's also no chatter about it online.
You're sure those sounds were not coming from Chinese weather balloons?
No, that's where I was going to go. Is this another one of those, what are they calling them? Unidentified aerial
objects?
No, they're not calling them UFO.
Devices?
Maybe UADs might be. But yeah, I've been reading the stories on those. So it could be another one. And the reason why they're finding so many more now, if y'all haven't looked at it, is because after the Chinese balloon, they reconfigured their aerial notifications and how they're monitoring the airspace. What they did is they lowered the threshold for slow moving objects. Apparently it had been configured for fast objects like, I don't know, rockets or missiles or something moving fast. So now they've lowered that threshold and they can pick up slow moving objects. although they have reassured everyone these were not anything dangerous. There were no communications coming from them. There were no weapons on them. They weren't being directed in any particular way, like they had nothing on them to take them a particular direction or another. I don't know how much I believe what the government says about anything, but I do believe that they're now finding more because they've lowered their threshold for the speed at which the objects need to move. And they shot these objects down because at the, what do you call it? At the height that they could interfere with air traffic. That was their only reason, was to protect their planes.
Or so that's the excuse.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just go from there.
Well, speaking about China, there is yet another debate on TikTok here in the Netherlands.
Oh, here too.
And actually, our House of Representatives today in majority said that Dutch civil servants should not use TikTok on their work phones.
Something to do with the keystroke logging?
Yeah, it is a privacy risk. And
it
because now the data can also be shared with China.
Yep.
Nobody knows how exactly, because there does not seem to be a legal basis for data sharing. But at least that's part of TikTok's terms and also their data protection policy. So the House of Representatives in majority is concerned.
They should be.
And apparently in the US, there is already a TikTok prohibition for civil servants. And the Dutch State Secretary for Digitalization does not just want to follow the US example, but will be part of a follow-up debate later on. And there are also some entrepreneurs here in the Netherlands already arguing that TikTok should just be prohibited in the European Union because of these practices.
Yeah, it is crazy.
On the one hand, I understand, because this is big bad China, but why prohibit TikTok and not prohibit Facebook or Instagram or other social media? Because it's big bad United States. The practices are similar.
Yeah.
So why are we more scared of China than of the United States?
Because China has not shown itself to be a friend of most rational libertarian countries.
Have the US?
Well, we're usually on the right side.
You're on the right side of history. Maybe not always on the right side of data protection.
You could read that on my face, couldn't you? We're on the right side. We wrote history, okay. But yeah, I think maybe that's it, is that we're a democracy.
Fair. But still, it
doesn't really mean anything on a practical level in some regards, but in what the government might use or misuse data for might have an impact. I would like to think we have some limitations into what we would do. Some.
I would like to think that too. But to be honest, I would like to think the same for China.
I would too. And, you know,
and I have not seen any evidence that China is actually misusing these data. I mean, I do share the concerns when it comes to TikTok, but I still have similar concerns when it comes to all the Meta apps, and I'm still using those, by the way. But wouldn't it be, maybe it's not so much the government as the companies themselves that are the bad guys on the US side? Might that be the distinction? I don't hear you anymore.
Maybe. I don't know. I really don't. I mean, we all go, China bad, US good. And that's not necessarily the way things boil
You know
out.
what? Not all of us go US good, because the European Parliament actually adopted a resolution this week saying that also the EU-US data privacy framework is not good.
Is not good.
And that it should not move forward. Not even commission renegotiate, but just don't do it.
Just don't do it. Scrap it now. Save ourselves the next 5 years of lawsuits and trouble and just move on to the next thing.
Well, yeah, because we need legal certainty. And this framework fails to create actual equivalence in the level of data protection. In the words of the Committee on Fundamental Rights, the executive order is not clear, nor precise, nor foreseeable in its application. Also because it can be unilaterally changed by the US president at will. The redress mechanism, of course, it's not part of the judiciary, but of the executive, which is a concern. And still the interpretation of proportionality is too broad. I think the parliament points to the places where it hurts.
EU bad.
No, EU not bad. I mean, Parliament is mainly repeating the conclusions that the two of us already drew before, right?
Right. I mean, I'm still on the side of it's not as bad
No,
as
I agree.
the EU says, but it's also not certain. But frankly, neither is a law. I mean, I know in the EU, a law is pretty certain. Here in the US, a law is not pretty certain. The law can be redone or
Even case law can be redone. I mean,
yeah.
Look at Roe and Dobbs.
And people can also violate it.
Yeah, I mean, that's also something that we do. And still, when it comes to proportionality, I think that is their main criticism still, the mass surveillance, the bulk collection of personal data.
I think that's our main criticism too, just in
Yeah,
general.
and I still get that. And yes, there is still bulk collection, but I have never seen a government being as transparent as to the purposes for which data can be collected in the first place as the US government is in this executive order. I mean, I wish that all of the European countries doing bulk collection, and most of them do, would actually be as specific on their targets and what can and cannot be done with the data. So yes, it's still overly broad and it's not proportionate enough. And I think that will also be a ground for the court to strike it down again. But it is a massive improvement from what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. And the EU has a lot of do as we say and not as we do kind of provisions, characteristics, activities, whatever you want to call it. But, that's not uncommon. One of the things that one person in particular keeps pushing me back on when I talk about the strongest privacy laws is the GDPR is the strongest multinational privacy law, period. And this person keeps pushing back. Is that true in light of PIPL? Is that true in light of South Korea? Yes, because as far as I know, there is not any other multinational privacy laws. So yes, that will probably remain true even when other countries get stronger ones. And when you have that kind of a foundation like the EU, it is really hard not to get paternalistic over other nations' privacy practices.
True.
And turning a blind eye inward. Because in that case, the data of the EU citizens are not leaving the EU. They're staying right there with the government, as long as they're not backing it up into AWS or, something like that, which could still also stay in the EU.
I agree. So what's new on your side of the Atlantic?
Oh, we don't have anything really exciting going on over here. We have a ton of states that are passing or trying to pass privacy laws. We did have one of the FTC commissioners resign, said that, and I haven't looked into this strongly. Let me pull it up here real quick. So Commissioner Wilson, she was a Republican, announced her intent to resign, citing that she felt that the chair, Lena Khan's disregard for the rule of law and due process. And so Lena Khan is a Democrat. And so I need to dig into this story a little bit more, but it's my understanding she is the sole remaining Republican on the Federal Trade Commission. So it's interesting how this goes. She said that her resignation will come soon. They've frequently been at loggerheads over the past few years, but she wrote an op-ed that she has failed to persuade Ms. Khan and her enablers to do the right thing, and I refuse to give their endeavor any further hint of legitimacy by remaining.
That's quite the accusation.
Right? So I'm with everyone as getting into the details of it. I'll post the link to this article that I'm looking at. Just reading the article doesn't give you all the insight you need. So you really have to go back and look at other things and everything. But this article is a good summary of what's happening now. And it is the FTC's failure to block Meta's proposed acquisition of VR fitness app. Developer within limited, but those who support Khan tend to argue that if regulators win all their cases, they're likely not bringing enough of them. So there's criticisms on both sides of it. So it's interesting if you start looking into this, and it makes me want to go back and start looking at other activities from the FTC and look at if we can identify more details on how the two of these may have been at loggerheads, but in all likelihood, the full extent of what they may have disagreed on has not been aired publicly. And so this may be something we're looking for. Now, this also comes in light of, well, if she resigns, do we have enough people on the commissioner's bench?
Yeah.
So it's
And
it's going to be
especially
really
the bipartisan nature of the Federal Trade Commission.
exactly. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here. I've been trying to read as much as I can find on it in the little time since it happened. So I want to do a little bit more digging into that. Again, extol our listeners. If you know more information on this or have an opinion on it, we'd love to hear from you on this. But as you know, the FTC is our biggest regulator for privacy here in the United States. Yeah, the Department of Education for FERPA, which, a whole lot of regulation there. Health and Human Services for HIPAA. Yes, we have the individual sectoral laws, but for privacy across the board, the FTC is our biggest regulator. A while back, it used to also include the FAA. That's kind of gone by the wayside. I mean, these things change based on the administration that's in place at the time. So, it doesn't mean that just set in stone. This is exactly what Paul was saying a little while ago. Doesn't mean that, things don't change. Things change from administration to administration. Whatever tone or whatever priorities they bring. Y'all know that I've been a little disappointed. We haven't seen a whole lot more privacy movement here in the U.S. I had big hopes. We'll see how that plays out in the next 2 years. But otherwise, yeah.
Has there been any follow-up from the State of the Union on federal privacy legislation?
No, nothing meaningful that has really struck everyone as, this is the golden answer. No.
Okay. Unfortunate.
There has been chit-chat that the states aren't necessarily going to rest on their laurels in the anticipation that the federal is going to have something. The states are going to continue to move forward full speed ahead.
They don't want to lose another year?
Exactly. Well, and I mean, think about it. This is 23, so 24, not going to see a lot of movement.
Yeah.
Unless for some reason it becomes one of the major election issues, priorities, which privacy, really?
That
Okay.
probably would require some big kind of scandal that nobody is waiting for.
Laws are usually very reactive, not proactive. I think there's been enough to occur for the U.S. to be pretty reactive, but we're a little slow on the uptake there, I think. But
so one of the things that's being discussed a lot in Europe lately is whether or not local government and local law enforcement is able to restrict certain online speech. For example, calls for demonstrations that have been declared illegal, similar to the calls for people to come to the Capitol on January 6th or in follow-up events trying to attack democracy, trying to attack positions that the government have taken, maybe even whether they are demonstrations, but where local governments say, well, this is not the direction that we like, this is not something that we would like to see, or there is no room for this demonstration, or those kind of things. And in the Netherlands, we had the mayor of one of the largest towns declaring a so-called online area ban on somebody. So they were not allowed to post anything on their social media in relation to a physical demonstration that was supposed to take place at some point. And our highest court has said in recent weeks that was not allowed because there is no legal basis to do so. And now dozens of mayors have come out in favor of legislation to regulate that.
interesting.
What would you think of that?
Yeah, I don't think you can ban. And what exactly are they banning? I'm sitting here thinking, I don't think you can ban someone talking about a demonstration in their social media, because here that would be our freedom of speech.
Well, that would be the same here.
Yeah.
But freedom of speech is not unrestricted.
That is
And
true.
That is the argument.
It's typically restricted where it would cause high propensity of harm or danger. And so you're saying that they're saying that posting about demonstrations is a high
Cause
risk?
for civil unrest, and therefore both the freedom of speech and the freedom of assembly could be restricted.
But civil unrest, isn't that the rights of the people to create civil unrest if they so choose because they're unhappy with how something is run?
Well, that's the whole debate. Where are the boundaries of these fundamental rights? And I know this is not exactly the right to data protection, but it is, at the same time, it's still part of it, because this is about what we do online. This is about processing our data online. Yeah.
This is interesting because, I mean, I guess I could liken it here to employers restricting what employees can say online, and the Labor Relations Board has forbidden that because they have the right to congregate and to engage in concerted activity to protect their rights and their freedoms at work. I could extrapolate that a little bit and say that it seems like that's what it would be. I'm not even sure here if we would prohibit demonstrations of that sort. Now, we probably, I mean, heck, we let the Ku Klux Klan demonstrate. And if that doesn't cause danger to someone, I can't think of anything, it's just, but they just call out the police to keep watch. Now, I will say here in Arizona, we actually passed a law, was it last year, that restricted anyone from taking video recordings, maybe even pictures of police within a certain distance. Mm-hmm. Now, I think it started at like 50 feet and they finally wound up on 8 feet. It was illegal for anyone to take photos or videos of police within 8 feet, especially if the police tell you not to. Do you know nobody has stood up to defend that law? It has now been contested over the freedom of speech and everything, and not even the lawmakers who passed it are standing up and defending it. It's just a dead law.
Yeah. Why did they pass it in the first place?
Right. That was they knew they shouldn't have passed it. They were just trying to show their support of police, but because, of all the unrest going around with police and everything, but that's not the way to show support. That's stupid.
I agree. It's not. But this is, in the end, this all comes down to what kind of content do we want to see online and who decides what can be taken down?
Right.
Taking down of illegal content to a certain point makes sense. I mean, if, I don't know, you advertise for selling ecstasy online, of course that is something that's going to be taken down because that's illegal activity. It would already be different when it is
threatening someone personally, threats to kill someone or kidnap someone or
child pornography. Those kind of things obviously are illegal content and should be taken down.
But they're not just social posts about demonstrations.
No, and that is the whole debate now, is calling for an illegal demonstration. Is that also illegal content that should be taken down? And if so, who decides on whether or not that should be taken down? Is that the local mayor? Is that the local chief of police? Is that the local court? Is that a national court? Is that an international agreement that we should somehow realize between everyone? Is that the social media providers themselves?
Could we put that in terms of the calls for demonstration against Congress back in 2020?
Well, yeah, I mean, to some extent.
Where they stormed Congress and scaled the walls and illegally entered? If we had forbidden social media or communication on illegal demonstrations back then, would that ever have occurred?
I don't know, but
I don't either.
But that is indeed the whole worst nightmare that these mayors see before them.
I wonder.
Why they say, well, we want to have the competency to be able to ask these messages to be taken down because we don't want those kind of occurrences.
Is that what it stems from?
To some extent, not just that. It's also from the whole COVID era where illegal demonstrations took place, where people were not respecting social distancing, for example, during demonstrations. We have a lot of Extinction Rebellion demonstrations in the Netherlands now. So on climate, with lots of people also blocking highways. I
was going to say, is it the blocking the highways, which is dangerous?
It is blocking the highways. It's the same for the farmers who also block the highways with their farming materials. And those are those big trucks and tractors and things like that. It is the combination of all of that. And demonstrations are becoming more impactful, less respectful, more large scale.
More the rule, not the exception.
Yeah, public order needs to be maintained, or at least that's the claim of law enforcement and of local governments.
Well, when you start putting it in terms like that, you start going, is that danger? Is that under the purview of the government to prevent?
Exactly.
Because here you can have a demonstration, but I think usually you have to get a license for a demonstration, and you are restricted to certain areas, typically if it is a legally formed demonstration. And you may be saying, well, it might not be a legally formed demonstration. It might be an illegally formed demonstration that's against the rules that we've put in place to safeguard the public and to eliminate danger.
Yeah, we don't do licenses, at least not in the Netherlands, for demonstrations.
Okay.
You need to notify, and notification means it can be indeed restricted or even prohibited if it is considered to be a danger for public order or public unrest.
Right. And we've gone from acknowledging that there is a reason to prevent demonstrations away from can you prevent people from talking about a demonstration that is illegal or has not been sanctioned?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
And what would then be the right level to have that debate? Would it be just for a local mayor or a local police chief to say, I want this taken offline?
Oh, the power.
Yeah. So interesting debate to see where it follows.
I mean, my wife, my daughter, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my son, my uncle is planning on going down to the local bar and getting crap-faced and streaking naked through town. So therefore, we're going to stop the social media posts because that's an unlawful demonstration.
Yeah.
There's weird things where my brain goes. I'm just saying.
No, but it's all part of, indeed, the same debate. So it's very interesting to follow and see what will happen here.
Y'all just get wild over there in the Netherlands, don't you?
Well, we have a lot of debate. Let's leave it at that.
Well, okay. Well, moving back here to the United States, I don't know if you've seen all the posts online about your mental health information being scraped up by data brokers and sold. So that's kind of hitting the airlines now. The airlines, good Lord, the airwaves. That's hitting the airwaves now about needing more legislation to control data brokers and how they sell information, which has never truly been limited because data brokers selling health information, it's not health information once it gets to the data brokers.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Why not?
Because it's not protected health information under HIPAA if it didn't come from a business associate or a covered entity for certain purposes. And once it gets outside those limitations, it's no longer governed under HIPAA.
That surprises me.
Yeah.
That's so different from the GDPR's approach where you put the protection around the data wherever it goes.
You protect the data, not the entities. Yeah, this is interesting. It's the same thing I've criticized about some of the state legislatures about exempting HIPAA covered without exempting the HIPAA data itself. They're giving exemptions to the entities, which is the wrong approach because the entities handle a heck of a lot more than PHI. So, but this one is interesting because more than likely what they're doing, and this ties into the lawsuits over Meta's Pixel about scraping up information when the pixel is on your website, and it's happening with pharmacy sites or with scheduling mental health visits, things like this, that the pixel is scraping up the data and sending it back to Facebook. We have class action lawsuits on this coming up recently. I believe they have been approved to move forward. And Facebook says that they have processes in place that gets rid of that data. That's not the data they want. I'm not sure I believe that, but it could be true. But regardless, that's not the legal control. The legal control is not that Facebook doesn't do anything with it. The control is Facebook shouldn't have it. And so the lawsuits are not just against Facebook, which some of the lawsuits on videos are against Facebook because they're saying Facebook then takes that metadata and total new meaning to the word metadata. But Facebook is now taking that data. They're like, it's been ours all along. It's metadata. Anyway, takes that data and then uses it in their algorithm to show targeted behavioral advertising to people based on the videos they've watched on other sites. That's against Meta. These are against the companies who have the Meta Pixel loaded to their websites and is therefore scraping up the data. So it's not that it's just illegal for Facebook or Meta to do or not do anything with it. It's the fact that these companies should know what's on their website, should know that the Meta pixel is scraping up the data and doing something with it. There you go. And once Meta has it, Meta can sell it to the data brokers or lease it or whatever the heck it is that they do to it now. So that's a really big thing happening now. And as I was looking for that story to give more details, I came across this one from the U.S. District for the Northern District, U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California ordered Meta Platforms and its law firm, Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher, which is a big law firm, to pay $925,000 over their delay, misdirection, and frivolous arguments in a data privacy lawsuit. The judge, Shabria, said Meta and the firm mounted a sustained, concerted, bad faith effort to throw obstacle after obstacle in front of the plaintiffs in the case over the company's sharing of user data with third parties. So this is interesting because you would think that that's what a law firm is supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Is block legal action, but they're saying that this went beyond that. This all goes back to Cambridge Analytica, and it says that the judge faulted Meta for claiming they were only required to produce internal documents in the case about user data the company admitted it shared with third parties. The court had ordered them to turn over data it had collected on the plaintiffs in the case, regardless of what had been shared. So the saga is never ending. So that was one of the stories that I had missed. And another one that came up, well, I don't know if we should even talk about this one against the lawsuit against the CEO of OneTrust. We're just going to let that stay right there.
I was just wondering, will we talk about that? Yes or no?
You know, I don't like trashing companies publicly. I trash them within the privacy of my own walls, left and right, but I don't like to do so publicly. But this is a sensitive issue. If you've pulled down the actual complaint that was filed, it is highly redacted. Doesn't surprise me. There was an order in the case that, Kabir had asked for privacy restrictions on the complaint. The judge had granted them. So anything incredibly private was redacted out. But what is there is pretty inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
And so, people keep asking, well, what do you think is going to happen? I can't say what's going to happen. This is a lawsuit. This is a lawsuit that we don't see very often in our world. And I would expect that it would mostly be settled out of court before it ever got to court, because I don't think either party would really like it in court. Does this have anything to do with business operations? And this is where I can't speak to this case specifically. I don't know the details. But I can say in general, hypothetically, a case like this against a company is typically settled out of court. You would expect it to be. You'd expect it to be settled before it ever got to filing a complaint. But otherwise, you also don't expect it to impact the near-term business operations. I mean, I did see remarks that some people are hoping maybe this gives them the opportunity to get out of certain contracts. If there is lack of stability in the management or what's going to happen, I can't speak to that. I have no idea. I just know that it would not surprise me to see this settle out of court.
Only time will tell.
And also that their director of communications looked at my profile today. I haven't said anything bad.
You've only said that you are following the discussion.
Exactly. And have you read the complaint? That seems pretty sensitive to me. I don't like to see any company going through these kinds of issues, despite the fact that I'm an attorney and you would think attorneys live for these kind of things. I don't think it's ever a good situation when the board of directors of a company is at odds with their executive management. That just kind of breaks my little entrepreneurial heart.
And in any case, we will continue to monitoring this as well. So
yeah.
On that note, we'll wrap up for this week because we're well over time already. Thank you for listening to yet another episode of Serious Privacy. Forgive our ramblings on the state of affairs in the world. If you like us, despite everything that we discussed today, please rate and review us in your favorite podcast app or podcast application.
We're so bad today.
Join the conversation on LinkedIn. Find us as Serious Privacy. Find Kay as Twitter as Heart of Privacy. Myself as Euro Paul B. And the podcast at Podcast Privacy. Until next week. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
That was Serious Privacy.
If you're a data protection or privacy professional, you already know the pressure. Non-stop regulatory change, AI oversight, internal demands, and the expectation to somehow stay ahead of it all. And the old patchwork of tools just isn't cutting it anymore.
No. That's why TrustArc created a modern privacy management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. The TrustArc platform brings your workflows, evidence, research, tasks, and applications all together in one unified and intelligent workspace so you don't waste time digging, clicking, or context switching.
With Ask Arc, your privacy assistant, you can ask plain language questions about laws, jurisdictions, or even your own program data and get credible, cited answers based on NIMBY research and more than 1,000 global laws. It's explainable, transparent, and purpose-built for data protection and privacy.
So if you need to add a vendor, create a cookie banner, or start an assessment, quick actions take formally complex tasks, turn them into bite-sized guided workflows to save you time.
It's a platform that thinks like you, works like you, and helps you move faster with confidence, whether you're a seasoned DPO or you're just getting started.
See how modern privacy gets done. Explore Arc at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.